Something that I want to touch on is the idea of reflection as a strategy. I think in a lot of conversations that I'm in with building and district leaders, and just leaders in general, is this lack of space for intentional reflection. Right? The idea is, well, if we stop or if we slow down, then we lose all of the momentum or all of the things, or we don't have time to waste. And yes, if it's not intentional and it's not through the right lens or at the right time, it could be a waste of time. But I think what's really important is you have to be able to intentionally reflect and build reflection into your culture and process and protocols and ways of operating, in order to be really aligned, in order to be really strategic and intentional with next steps. And one of the things as a facilitator that I really work on is kind of this flow and process. There's always this let's ground ourselves and let's kind of dive into said particular topic. Let's make meaning around it. So let's kind of be in the inquiry around what we're talking about, what this means, why it's important, all these other pieces. But then let's reflect on it for ourselves, reflect on it for the impact and influence it has on others, reflect on it for how it translates and looks like within the systems that we lead. And then ultimately from there, how can we take that process and make that reflection actionable? I think one of the things that really helps in that space is it allows people to step back, right? They're in it every day. They're in the momentum. They're just in the trenches. And so they're seen with these blinders on of just what's there. But when you create this intentional space to pull them out, to help them tie some of these through lines, to think about the reality of what's going on and then plan accordingly for the next step, it's really empowering. It also helps bring the concept of what we're talking about, or the idea of what we're talking about, and tying it to their day-to-day. I think that's one of the biggest pieces when it comes to facilitation and spaces and just training or development in general, is it oftentimes can seem disconnected, right? We get a lot of information, we kind of get spoken at, and you're going, this is great, and I don't actually know what to do with this because I don't know how that translates to the reality of the teams that I lead, the people that I interact with, where I am, where our organization is. And so I think when you can blend those worlds together, when you can create some shared understanding, create some knowledge giving through a specific topic, start to tie those dots to how does that look like, or how does that show up within the current reality for yourself or others or your systems, and then plan a next step based off of that. It really ties those pieces together, and it really helps leaders take that next step. It's digestible. It really helps that translate, and that's always the process I go through. It's this let's create some knowledge, right? Let's ground ourselves. Let's kind of step into this make meaning space. Let's think about reflection through these lenses, and then let's think about how that translates to the reality, whether that's for self, whether that's for teams, organization and structures, or design, right? And go from there. And feedback that I always get consistently is, I didn't realize how much I knew I needed that space to step back and reflect. And I think that's so powerful. I think oftentimes we don't really realize that reflection can be a powerful strategy. I think what happens when we don't reflect is we go a mile a minute. We are throwing things in every direction. We're on this autopilot to just go, 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 go. And we're working potentially harder, but not smarter. And so we can burn out. We can find ourselves way off of the direction that we want to go, or what we want to create, or how we're connecting to, who we want to be as an organization, or what we want to achieve. When reflection is built into that process, and there's norms and protocols and structure around what reflection looks like and the role reflection plays, you're able to kind of meet yourself in the reality of the moment. And from there, you're able to be intentional. So instead of going in 1,000 different directions, you're able to go, oh, here's where we are. Here's just that next step we need to take. Let's go take that next step. And then let's see what that feedback is, and then go from there. And so I really encourage leaders and encourage people to listening to really be thinking about reflection, and where does it show up within your space? Where does it show up for yourself within your role, in your position, and just your process of showing up? As well as, what does it look like within the teams that you lead? What does it look like within the culture of your organization? Is reflection something that is encouraged, or is it something that is often stuck to the side because there's no time? These are just great opportunities to just be thinking about more intentionally how some of these spaces and how some of this slowing down can really help you speed up in the long run.